Conor McGregor has promised a Bkfc fight with Jeremy Stevens in the future, and I really truly believe the Conor McGregor Dana White fallout that is coming in the very near future is going to be massive in the sport. We have a lot to check out because this past weekend, after the main event at Bkfc, Conor McGregor entered the ring in what I would describe as a coked out, drunk stare down with Jeremy Stevens. And that was interesting, and we'll take a look at that video in a second. But also after the event, Conor McGregor promised a fight with Jeremy Stevens through Bkfc president David Feldman, which we're also going to take a look at. But we got a lot to cover in this video because we're going to listen to Jeremy Stevens' reaction to Conor McGregor, which I thought was very interesting. He actually bodied Conor McGregor in less than 15 seconds. We'll take a look at that. There's recently a Michael Chandler clip that has surfaced talking about the Conor McGregor fight, which I think is absolutely hilarious, but not worthy of a video in and of itself. And then lastly, in this video, there's a clip that I've included in maybe 2 or 3 videos last year that should have been the biggest headline on every MMA website at the time that it was said. And to this day, I've yet to see anybody else covering it. And it's Dana White talking about Conor McGregor. And that's not being hyperbolic at all. I'm dead serious. We're going to check that out towards the end of the video because I think it really highlights the strain on the relationship between Conor McGregor and Dana White. Let's jump right into it. And something else I want to cover in this video is Conor McGregor's reaction to Usman Nurmagomedov versus Paul Hughes. So if you watched the fight, it was PFL. It was kind of like the last Bellator event in a way. It was in Abu Dhabi. You have Nurmagomedov beats Paul Hughes via essentially unanimous decision. Not really. I guess it was majority decision because you had one draw. The other 2 judges scored it for Nurmagomedov. I thought Nurmagomedov won pretty cleanly, but it was a competitive, decent fight. And then afterwards, Khabib Nurmagomedov gives nothing but respect to Ireland and Irish fighters. Well, after that, I guess Conor McGregor's still upset about being absolutely destroyed by Khabib Nurmagomedov now 7 years ago. I think Conor's only tasted victory once since then, if I'm not mistaken, against the dead corpse of Cowboy Cerrone. He's still upset about that, so he tweets out this: "Tremendous fight and performance, easy win for Hughes. He dominated that fight, and Umar exactly what it says on the tin. A Nurmagomedov runner, sprinter, bolter, scrapper, scurrier, fighter, quote fighter. The Nurmagomedovs are not fighters. They are the most non-fighting fighters out of Dagestan and all time. Run away the cage and the shoot ass bitches. Dagestan is better than Nurmagomedovs. That is a fact, and that is a fact." First off, besides the fact that that was like a brain aneurysm trying to even read it, this dude is still salty. This dude is still upset that Khabib took him down and smashed him, dominated him and finished him and made him beg for his life. And, you know, he's this upset about that loss, but there's people defending him in his recent civil verdict of sexual abuse, and people are saying there's no way he would have brought up Khabib in the bedroom when he's performing this horrific act. This dude's still thinking about it every day, so it wouldn't shock me at all. So disgusting, classless, also delusional. You know, it's just completely delusional, but we don't need to spend too much time on it. I just wanted to highlight that. The next thing I want to take a look at, we're going to have a little bit of an inception here. Look how young and not bearded I am in this video here. This is a video called Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler will not happen. Let me scroll down for you here, okay? Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler will not happen. Look at the date on that, boys. Look at the date on that. I was dying on this hill in 2023. It's almost been 2 years. By the way, I like my own video. This thumbnail for this video is Conor McGregor to Bkfc. That is the thumbnail for the video. He had a stare down with Mike Perry at the time. And I just want to play you a 10-second clip from this video just so you can see how well this is aged. Listen to this. But this got me thinking, and a lot of people asking, could we see Conor McGregor in Bkfc? And I believe the answer is yes, but it's a matter of timing. Now, I don't believe you will see Conor McGregor in Bkfc anytime soon. I don't believe you'll see him this year. I don't believe you'll even see him next year. So that's 2023 and then 2024. But damn, I'm telling you right now, I'm a true physical specimen. And the beard, I think the long beard, even though it's a little disheveled right now, it fits well on me. Anyway, I knew Conor McGregor eventually. This was before Conor even had a deal with BKFC. I go into my rationale. We don't need to get into that today. But Conor McGregor now has a deal with BKFC. And believe me, we're getting to the stare down with Jeremy Stevens. We're getting to David Feldman in the post-fight talking about Conor McGregor, Jeremy Stevens. We're getting to the Dana White clip. I want to highlight this. This was from 3 weeks ago. David Feldman, president of BKFC, was asked about, I guess you're still in the Conor McGregor business after this recent civil conviction. And this was his response. I wanted to highlight this in a video. I took this timestamp a while ago. This is the perfect video to show you because it's clear the plans that Conor McGregor and BKFC are conspiring to eventually fulfill maybe the end of this year, maybe early next year. Listen to this.
Ask you about the continued relationship you've built with Conor McGregor. I know Conor has been going through some stuff lately, and obviously we all know what he's had happen with him, but it seems like that relationship with Conor has continued to grow and build and flourish. Would you go as far as saying like that may end up being one of the most important moments in BKFC history, bridging that, becoming partners with him, and then just seeing how that's continued to grow over these past few months?
For the love of God, fix the audio. We got to fix the audio, man.
I think certainly it is. And look, we don't want to go into, what happened with him, but at the end of the day we
don't want to go into the fact that he's a civilly liable sexual assaulter, but let's listen to what David Feldman has to say because he doesn't care at all.
We're with him. And he's our partner and we're going to grow this thing together. And, he talks, like I said, people listen. I don't condone any bad things that may have happened, but what I do support 100% is loyalty, and you're with somebody, and you're with somebody through good and bad. You're not just with them through the good. And we've been with Conor McGregor the whole time. He's been with us the whole time. And 2025 is going to be an epic year for everybody involved.
Let me translate that for you. We don't care if he's committed sexual assault as long as he can make the business money and help it grow. So David Feldman is firmly in the Conor McGregor business. Now, Conor, if he's just a promoter part of BKFC, that's important. But you know what would be the biggest thing that could ever happen for BKFC? It would be Conor McGregor fighting in BKFC instead of the UFC. That would be ginormous. Well, you have an interview with Conor McGregor the other day with the Schmo. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll link everything I'm showing you down in the description. You can go check out the full source material if you want. But listen to what Conor said. And this kind of slipped under the radar as well. I played this in a recent video as well. But listen to what Conor says. Listen very carefully here at the ending when he starts talking about legal. Listen to this.
I had no problem doing that. And to be honest, I'd have done it either way. Just said that they... one of these days, you just hear my music come onto the stage here in Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, and now I come with me fist wrapped with no gloves and I fight out of nowhere, no promo, no nothing, just fighting a random fight in a car. That could be where my future holds. And legal, just making claims and all this bollocks. That's what pussies. That's how.
Legal, and making claims and all that bollocks. He's talking about. If he tries to fight for BKFC, he's basically saying the UFC shouldn't try to sue me. The UFC shouldn't try to come after me. The UFC should let me go fight in BKFC because essentially that's Conor's promotion now. And he's getting frustrated with the back and forth between him and the UFC. I think it's both parties involved. I mean, there's a whole convoluted thing truly going on between Conor and the UFC that I've covered ad nauseum at this point. But Conor truly wants to fight in BKFC. And I don't believe he actually wants to fight for the UFC. And he definitely doesn't want to fight high-level opposition in the UFC. And it couldn't be more clear. He's been laying out hint after hint after hint. And it's very clear that Dana White is not happy with this. Now, he's not trying to get into a public feud with Conor McGregor because Conor actually has some power because of his popularity. But it's very clear that Dana and Conor are kind of on... basically on the edges right now. I mean, look at what happened with Armin. You don't think Dana's pissed at Conor? Conor pulled out of one of the biggest fights because of a pinky toe. And then Conor's also been kind of playing around for the last few years and promoting another organization. And Dana's not happy about that. And David Feldman actually hints to that in the post-fight. But let's watch the stare down real quick. Because here's the stare down between Jeremy Stevens and Conor McGregor. This is immediately after the fight at BKFC. Watch this.
The fuck is this? Yeah, let's make a date. Let's set a date. Who's going to stop me man to man? No one's going to stop me.
Who's going to stop me man to man? I don't know if he's talking about Jeremy Stevens stopping him in a fight. I think it might be hinting at who's going to stop me. The UFC ain't going to stop me. Dana ain't going to stop me, which they will stop him, but that's besides the point right now.
David, make the date. Let's do it. One down for the pro, yeah? One down for the pro.
Let's go. Let's fucking do it. Hey, bleed, baby, just bleed. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time.
I mean, this guy, every time we see this guy, he looks like he's on coke. He looks like he's on some type of drug, okay? It doesn't look good. But look, he clearly wants that Jeremy Stevens fight, or at least he wants to promise that fight and make it seem like it's going to happen. And also, for those of you who weren't watching the sport back then, I want to play this beginning of this stare down real quick, because I want to show you the origin of it, which most people probably already know, but some people may not.
Who the fuck is this, baby? Yes.
So, who the fuck is this guy? Okay, that's Conor McGregor's line. In case you didn't know where that came from, the UFC used to have these big press conferences that encompassed multiple events, and this was one of Conor's most famous lines from that.
Around you got a lot of champions, a lot of grizzled vets. Who do you think would give you the hardest fight out of anybody on stage?
Right here, the hardest hitting 145-pound, the real hardest hitting 145er right here.
There's Jeremy Stevens, okay, who's now fighting for Bkfc.
This guy TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't fucking move. Who the fuck is that guy?
I mean, slightly funny. It was way funnier back then, but that's the only clip that Bkfc needs to have to sell a fight between Conor McGregor and Jeremy Stevens. It sells itself. It makes perfect sense. And it would grow Bkfc, which at this point in time is still in the early stages of growth, but it would mean a lot if they could put on a Conor McGregor versus Jeremy Stevens fight in late 2025 or at some point in 2026. It would be mega for the company, which Conor McGregor, I believe, owns like 50% of the company. So it'd be massive for the company. Now, afterwards, so after this stare down, you have this stare down here. Here's Jeremy Stevens' reaction, which I think is very hilarious because we're going to compare and contrast this to Michael Chandler. Listen to this. He kind of just bodies Conor McGregor like real quick in like 10 seconds. Listen to this.
And with that Conor fight, Dave Feldman comes back here, says Conor comes up to him, says, I want that Jeremy Stevens fight next.
We're gonna watch that Dave Feldman post fight here in a second, but listen.
So, what are your thoughts there? You fighting the Irishman?
Oh, cocaine Conor.
I mean, easily just calls him out because we all know that's true. He's surrounded by yes men. Nobody wants to tell him. But then listen to his reaction after that. So keep in mind, David Feldman, the president of Bkfc, is saying, look, Conor really wants the Jeremy Stevens fight. They're staring down in the cage. They have the backstory. Conor's part owner of the sport, or not the sport, the company. Listen to Jeremy Stevens' reaction. You think he'd be like, man, Conor's going to be a man of his word. He's romantic about the sport. He's definitely going to fight me. Listen to Jeremy Stevens' reaction.
He's got a long path, bro. It's all good promotion. Love it. Love to come in there right in front of his face, have him doubt me. I felt like Feldman and him were up against me. Like everybody was up against me, bro.
Essentially, I'll believe it when I see it. He's got a long path and it's all good promotion, but essentially, I'll believe it when I see it. It's even more hilarious when you look at this recent Michael Chandler clip from a Tim Welch interview. This is from 2 days ago. As I'm recording this, it is now January 26th. I could not believe this clip when I heard it from Michael Chandler. He is still begging and praying for the Conor McGregor fight. Listen to this.
Yeah, do you think that fight is completely out the window?
I don't. I don't think that any fight Conor McGregor ever fighting, is ever out the window until he says he's done and he's retired.
I wish there would have been more in this interview that I could have done a whole entire video. What was that statement right there? Listen to this statement again. Listen to this statement from Chandler and try to make sense of it.
Yeah, do you think that fight is completely out the window?
I don't. I don't think that any fight Conor McGregor ever fighting, is ever out the window until he says.
I don't think Conor McGregor ever fighting is ever out the window.
Says he's done and he's retired.
Until he says he's done and he's retired. Which, by the way, he said he's done and he's retired like 17 times since he entered the sport.
The guy's got this. The guy needs this. The guy needs this like he needs oxygen. He loves it. And even seeing him with the Paul brothers, talking about the Paul brothers being a side job, a quick little, make a bunch of cash thing, and Logan saying, hey, you don't even do your first job, let alone a side job, which I thought was a great idea, a great comeback.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think I think Conor's got an uphill battle here with, just getting out of the limelight for the wrong reasons. And the best thing I think he can do is get into a training camp. And I haven't been promised it, but there's been a lot of assurances that when he comes back, he's going to fight me, because why wouldn't he?
And
I haven't been promised it, but I've had a lot of assurances. And when he's coming back, that road runs through Nashville, Tennessee. See you at the top. Think about that. Conor isn't even talking about Chandler. Nobody's confident that Conor's ever going to return. Chandler's still being, unless he said nothing's out the window. If Conor says it, unless Conor says it's out the window. And then there's always a possibility of him fighting if he's going to fight. Like, dude, give it up already. Meanwhile, Jeremy Stevens getting all the assurances right to his face, getting all the promotion right to his face. Now, granted, there's a legal obligation and contract disputes going on between them, but are most likely going to resolve in the next year or so. And he doesn't even believe it's going to happen. But Chandler think, yeah, man, he's got to get out of that limelight, getting all that legal trouble. He needs to fight me. He needs to get into a training camp. Only Chandler could make Conor McGregor's civil conviction about fighting him completely and utterly humiliating. By the way, guys, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, turn on notifications. I would greatly appreciate it. Now we're going to look at David Feldman at the post-fight press conference. So keep in mind, this is the press conference right after they had the stare down in the cage. Listen to David Feldman here.
That's what I say. We just do it, and then we figure out the...
Sorry. Hold on. This is not the part about Conor McGregor yet. This, I think, highlights the fact that David Feldman knows Dana White is not happy about his relationship with Bkfc, okay? Because Dana's not going to come out and say it because Conor owns a portion of Bkfc and he's not trying to fan the flames. But Dana's not happy the fact that Conor's out there doing promotional work for Bkfc. He's doing more promotional work for Bkfc than he is for the UFC. And it seems like everything bad Conor does ends up falling at the feet of the UFC and Dana White. Listen to this, David Feldman talking about Bkfc and how others are rooting for their failure.
How do we do it better next time? How do we get more people next time? How do we get more people viewing? By the way, we were trending #1 on Twitter tonight. So that was amazing. Thank you guys again for that. That was amazing for us. We just have to keep pushing the envelope. We're the little engine that could, and not everybody, but a lot of other bigger organizations, they want to see us fail. So we just got to push harder and harder and harder so we can succeed.
A lot of bigger organizations want to see us fail. You think PFL wants to see Bkfc fail? Maybe. I think that was directly referencing the UFC. The UFC... Say what you will about Bkfc not being really a competitor. I don't really believe they are at this point in time. I don't believe anybody's a real UFC competitor right now. Dana and the UFC, the heads of the UFC, do not like competition at all. That's why they're in 2 antitrust lawsuits right now. Okay? That's why people are challenging their restrictive contracts. And the more possible organizations, the more destinations fighters have and options that fighters have, the more leverage they have to potentially leave the UFC. So the UFC does not like Bkfc just for that reason alone. I mean, obviously, Dana hasn't come out and just crapped on it. Eventually, he will. A time will come that he is crapping on Bkfc. But I think David Feldman is referencing that because also, I'm telling you right now, and you could say, Joey, you're wrong, this and that. Dana is not happy about Conor McGregor's relationship with Bkfc, which I've already said. But now also we're getting into the Conor McGregor portion. This is at the very end, which is hilarious. You know what's so hilarious? The media there didn't even really ask about Conor McGregor because they know how many wolf tickets Conor McGregor has sold. I'm fighting this guy. I'm fighting that guy. I'm fighting here. I'm fighting there. How many times has Conor calls out every fighter to try to steal some of their shine every time they win a fight, that the media didn't even bother asking about Conor. David Feldman brought him up at the end of this press conference. Listen to this. Oh, remember Conor, Dan Hooker as well? There's another one. But listen to this.
All right, President David Feldman.
One more thing. As I was walking out of the arena, Conor actually tapped me on the shoulder, and he told me to make sure that I tell everybody that he's fighting Jeremy Stevens in Bkfc. That's what he said. I don't know if it's happening. I'm telling you, Conor just told me that he's fighting Jeremy Stevens in bare knuckle.
Michael Chandler just dropped to his knees in a supermarket and audibly gasped. Okay? Now, I'm not saying I necessarily believe that this is going to happen right away, but I think inevitably, as that clip I showed you from April of 2023 of me in a previous video, I do believe inevitably Conor McGregor will most likely headline a BKFC event. He does not want to kick anymore. He does not want to fight the elite of the elite. He wants favorable matchups. And also, he will get paid more in BK. I know this is hard to believe. He will get paid more in BKFC than he will in the UFC because the revenue split is much higher in BKFC than it will be in the UFC. I know it sounds insane. Eventually, they will have Conor fight in BKFC. Now, obviously, Feldman right now is not trying to stir up too much drama with the UFC. He's like, I don't know if it'll happen, but Conor's insisting that it will happen. And I believe, and I'm not going to spend too much time covering this because there's one last clip I want to look at of Dana White from last year. I do believe either Conor fights one more time for the UFC or he waits for his sunset clause. Now, we don't know for 100% certainty that he has a sunset clause, but it's more than likely that he does. And it would be coming up at the end of 2025 or early 2026, which would essentially mean that he can leave the UFC without having to fight for them anymore. Now, they altered the sunset clause to make it more restrictive, but I believe Conor McGregor would have signed a contract previous to the point that the UFC altered that clause. So Conor could just wait out his contract for roughly another year or maybe even a little bit less and then just go to BKFC and never have to fight for the UFC, make more money. And I think maybe that's what Conor's plan is. Because why go to the UFC and get devalued unless the UFC is going to give you a favorable matchup where you can win on your way out the door, because that's clearly what Conor wants to do. Then I doubt he wants to go in there, get beat up by elite level opposition, and then get washed out of the UFC and lose some promotional power. Think about this. If you're Conor McGregor, would you rather get destroyed by someone, leave the UFC and go fight for BKFC? It would still be profitable. Or if you only had a year to wait, you've already waited 4 years. Why not wait a year, make your big return for BKFC now, and get probably 50% of the revenue for that pay-per-view event? That sounds a lot more reasonable for Conor McGregor, a lot more rational for Conor McGregor. Now, who knows if Conor's ever going to really want to step in there? I don't know, what the drug testing is like for BKFC for recreational drugs, because obviously Conor's on them. But it's a very interesting scenario to keep your eye on, because I'm telling you, Dana White and Conor are heading towards a fallout. And this is a clip I saw last year. This video, this interview, which is 15 minutes long, it was right around UFC Noche, has 6.5K views, okay? Nobody ever talked about this but me, as far as I know. I never saw it get posted on Twitter. I could not believe what I was hearing. Listen very closely.
Let's see. Conor McGregor was looking to make a comeback this year, had the injury. He's done a ton for this sport, obviously. He's been a megastar. You know this. And fans have been wondering about his return. When is it going to happen? And can he still compete at a high level? In your eyes, from somebody who knows him, does McGregor still have that hunger?
Well, let me tell you this. I was the one this year saying, I don't think he's going to fight this year. I missed all the talk and everything else. Even the fight being set up in the press conference.
I know people don't like when I replay stuff. Did you guys hear this? Why was this not the front page news on every MMA website at the time? Dana just said he did not believe Conor was going to fight even after they announced UFC 303, even after they planned the press conferences. They play, if Conor takes a shit somewhere or farts somewhere, they're writing articles about it. If he sends a tweet out somewhere, if Dana says, oh, I'm going to announce something in 20 minutes and it's just a power slap announcement giving away a cold plunge, the MMA websites report on it. How is nobody ever talking about this? Listen to this one more time.
In your eyes, from somebody who knows him, does McGregor still have that hunger?
Well, let me tell you this. I was the one this year saying, I don't think he's going to fight this year. I missed all the talk and everything else. Even the fight being set up in the press conference.
Which is hilarious, but then it gets even funnier here, okay? It gets even funnier here. Listen to this.
Conor McGregor will fight next year, early 2025. And
Conor will fight early 2025. Well, we already have pay-per-views booked out until March. Dana said in a recent interview, I don't even remember which one, I don't have the clip for you, that Conor McGregor would fight at the end of the year. I think it was on a recent podcast, one of those Barstool Sports podcasts. I did an entire video talking about that as well. But it goes from, I never believed that he was going to fight in 2024 to he's going to fight in early 2025. Here we are, damn near February of 2025. He still does not have a fight. The tension between Dana White and Conor McGregor is growing by the day. He's out promoting BKFC. He's promising BKFC fights. He's promising Logan Paul exhibition matches. He is a thorn in the UFC side. And I do believe at some point in time in the near future, it's going to come to a head and there's going to be something big going on between Conor and Dana White. Maybe Conor gets one more fight in the UFC. You know, I speculated about a potential Nate Diaz match because at the end of the day, if Conor does have a sunset clause, the UFC is going to want to devalue him on the way out. But rather than Conor waiting it out for that sunset clause and not fighting for the UFC, they'd rather collect the money and give him some type of fight that coaxes him back, because some money from a Conor McGregor fight for the UFC is better than no money from a Conor McGregor fight for the UFC. So ultimately, I'll tell you this right now, I do believe Conor will return at some point in time and fight in BKFC. Is that his first fight back from his leg break? I'm not sure yet, but I thought this was very interesting. He's having Dave Feldman show up at a press conference and tell everyone that he's guaranteeing a BKFC matchup with Jeremy Stevens. It seems like it's eventually going to happen. I know that sounds crazy coming from me, who said since February 2023 I did not believe McGregor would fight Chandler, but we'll see how it all plays out. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.